With a couple of public hearings to order for December 8, 2020. Margaret, could you make the roll call, please?
Supervisor Reynolds?
Here.
Supervisor Garlic Lorenzetti?
Here.
Supervisor Brownell?
Here.
Supervisor Barnhart?
Here.
Supervisor Borst?
Here.
Supervisor Hayes?
Here.
Supervisor Ferrara?
Here.
Supervisor Cronenwetter?
Here.
Supervisor Lott?
Here.
Supervisor McGreevy?
Here.
Supervisor Heisen?
Here.
Supervisor Trout?
Here.
Supervisor Clear? Supervisor Enzo?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please be seated. Next up is our public hearings. The first one is the proposed change in the operations and billing for Hillside Water Treatment portion of the Seneca County Sewer District Number 2. We have a motion to go in to open the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Hayes.
Second.
Okay, we got all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are now, the public hearing is now open. Anybody would like to comment?
I would like to speak on behalf of.
Could you come up to the podium there? Thank you. Please give your name and where you're from or who you're representing, please.
My name is Dave Cook. I represent Seneca Dairy Systems, Seneca Ironworks. I am their counsel, and we've submitted a written statement for the record as well, and I will just briefly touch on a couple of points from that statement. We've also submitted some questions along with that statement. We rise in opposition tonight to the proposal to segment the sewer district number 2. It basically, both from a legal and an equitable standpoint, it is fundamentally unfair. The proposal amounts to an inequitable treatment of the maintenance of a public utility, and the whole purpose of a public utility is to spread the costs among its users. It's also an arbitrary standard that is being proposed. We have serious concerns about the equities and the legality of the two properties bearing the entire burden of the North Depot Waste Treatment Plant. Let me address first the inequitable issues. Requiring 2 members of District 2 to fully fund one of 2 wastewater treatment systems is on its face unfair and inequitable. The board has characterized the other members of the district as previously subsidizing the North Depot Water Treatment Plant. And the fundamental purpose of a public utility, as I mentioned, is to spread the burden of operating costs across the customer base so there is affordable service and fair service. But requiring these 2 properties to fully fund that operation just for one plant, essentially the county's reverse engineering a functioning utility service. The manner in which the sewer authority has planned the infrastructure of the system and which facility services which customers are decisions that have been made over previous decades by the county, not by the facilities who now bear this new burden. By this proposal, it appears that the board is attempting to make 2 properties a wastewater treatment plant due to its own failure as described by the state comptroller and the DEC. Currently, these 2 properties use almost no water. Yet the treatment facility is still treating thousands of gallons of water per quarter. Undoubtedly, the facility's treatment of the water benefits not only the 2 properties, but the rest of the district as well. This plan by the board is inequitable, and it is not fair to the customers of District 2. It does not bear a rational relationship to the county's needs to continue to operate that treatment plant. Number two, under this proposal, there is no rational relationship between use and charges. The board is correct in determining that there's been a decrease in the flow from Hillside. Obviously, it is no longer a residential facility. The facility basically now has a water usage at or near zero. Under New York law, and the written statement we'll submit to the record has a citation to the case law, sewer charges have to bear a rational relationship to the amount used. And when Hillside was a residential facility, it was assessed approximately 53 EDUs of sewer usage per year, as was considered appropriate for its designation as a residential facility or school. But the facility no longer fits any of the property classes that are given pre-designated EDUs. It's not residential, it is not a school. Currently, the facility is categorized as, quote, all other non-residential property classes. And under this property class, the EDUs assessed are based on gallons of water used per quarter. Therefore, we respectfully request that the board change its calculation of EDUs as utilized by the Hillside facility to its actual amount used. Last point, point three. The failure of the board to adjust the EDU assessment in an equitable manner will amount to an arbitrary and capricious decision to segment the sewer district number 2 and expose the board to a potential Article 78 challenge and the attendant costs. There is no rational or legal basis for this. I've submitted this for the record and let it stand. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question. Yes, for the record, can you just please tell us that Seneca Dairy and Iron Works is otherwise known as Earl Martin? Is that correct, sir?
Earl Martin is the owner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to address the board on this? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Seneca County IDA, and I am here to read a letter that was submitted on behalf of the IDA board to the Board of Supervisors for tonight's hearing. It was provided to you all in advance, but I would just like to read this for the record. Dear Chairman Heisen and members of the Board of Supervisors, this letter is an objection to the proposed segmentation and rate increase for Seneca County Sewer District 2. The IDA board voted at its December 3rd meeting to oppose such action due to its business unfriendly nature. Based on information provided by the county to the IDA, the proposal under consideration would increase the service charge per EDU for the North Depot users by more than 1,400%, resulting in the collection of approximately $90,000 more annually than has historically been charged to the system users when Hillside was operating at full capacity. This increase places a significant hardship on the two system users who already bear the burden of maintaining aging facilities in poor condition and will impede their ability to make future investments at the depot. Additionally, this proposal comes when the county is pushing for the decommissioning of the Hillside wastewater treatment plant, leaving the North Depot without service and forcing users to source private alternatives at considerable cost. If the county's intention is truly to decommission the plant, we should be working together to make that transition as smooth as possible for everyone involved, not be strong-arming businesses into compliance by charging exorbitant amounts for wastewater treatment. We respectfully ask that you consider this request and not pass the rate increase. The county and the IDA should ideally be working together as partners to create a more business-friendly environment that encourages investment in our community and looks towards the future. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else like to address the board? Okay, I do have some comments as a Barricktown supervisor, okay? I'd like to add it into the record here. Hillside Sewer Plant annual costs are about $99,540 per year. See why I say this is the town of Barrick? My people in the hamlet around me are stuck by helping to subsidize the Hillside operation. revenue from Hillside when they were in operation was about $50,000 a year. When Hillside closed, the annual revenue per quarter went down to $1,261 per year. The Hillside shortfall is almost $50,000. Without Hillside shortfall, they have it now. It's a $95,000 shortfall. So how was this shortfall made up for the past 18 years? And it's still been happening. So let's use $40,000 of lost revenue. So we're subsidizing it for 18 years. We've come up with a $720,000 certain organizations and public entities had to make up the shortfall. And they were the Hamlet of Romulus, Spring Meadows, the county jail, 5 Points, Lakeshore Landing, and some other businesses inside the depot, down the southern end of the depot. Did anybody thank those groups for that subsidize? No, but we were being accused of being anti-business by the IDA last Thursday. And the supervisors from the south end were uninformed supervisors. But back in the old days here, Hillside and Kids Peace generated about 200 to 300 jobs and spent a lot of money in the county. The next part, which is being debated now, is the IDA needs to get an education on how districts legally operate. It's not the county running this, it is the county. It's called a county district, but just the benefited users in sewer 2 are right now paying it. It doesn't come out of the general fund. So the IDA members and staff tell us how we're supposed to fund the $95,000 shortfall. And this is just a start. The system of piping has a major I&I problem, which is groundwater and rainwater entering the system. How are we going to pay for that? And then the plant needs upgrading or a new treatment plant. So who is going to pay for these costs? These 2 projects are most likely a couple $1 million or more. And I'd like to remind the IDA and the BOS contributed $2.5 million to the Route 318 sewer project. We were also using pilot money from Del Lago to pay down the bond. Does that sound anti-business to you? Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk?
I would like to say something.
Okay.
As the chairman on the Sewer and Water Committee, this was something that we didn't really want to make happen. But I received a phone call from First Light, the other user. I negotiated a very good settlement with those guys to get off the sewer system, put their own system in. We negotiated. IDA has not negotiated, as far as I'm concerned, at all with the county in any respect for any of this project. And it's just shameful on the IDA's part to come back and tell us that we didn't do anything. I managed to get one off. I'd be more than happy to sit down with Earl Martin and do something, but you know what? Earl decides to go through the IDA, and the IDA does no negotiating with the county. Shame on you.
Yeah.
We got one off, one left.
And that should
An easy
happen.
way to get off of this whole process, and Earl Martin spending tons of money trying to fight something that most likely he'll lose in the end and cost more money than just trying to fix it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
We can fight it all day long. It's taxpayer money. Earl money comes out of Earl's pocket.
Yeah.
He's paying twice. You and us.
Okay, Mike?
How many users are on District 2?
Total?
Pardon?
Total for the whole district?
Couple thousand.
Good.
But half of them is, almost a half is down at 5 Points. You got the Hamlet of Romulus, Spring Meadows, and you got the county jail.
Got it.
And in the state law, if they aren't interrelated and interconnected, which they aren't, they're 2 separate systems, they don't touch, they don't get together all, they should be 2 sub-districts. They could be in a county district. Or Hillside should have been a town district all along. They could have done that too.
You remember when this started, it was to help the IDA get something generated to get businesses in. Now it's turned the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Bad, very bad business.
We helped out Hillside and Kids Peace for 18 years on not charging the retail rate. We could have upped the rate to the real cost.
And then when the IDA came and asked for a break, we gave it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden we're the bad guys.
Yep.
Shame on them.
Okay, anybody else want to speak? Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
A second? A second from Joe. Okay, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Next public hearing, local law C, granting partial property tax exemption to certain seniors and persons with disabilities, setting income limits for the same, and repealing local law number 4 of 1999.
Or,
Support?
motion, second?
Second. Okay, all those in favor of opening up the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to comment on that, on this public hearing? Okay, going once, twice, 3 times. The motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Next up, presentation, status update of the 2019 audit. Randall Shepard, partner of the Bonadil Group. Welcome, Randy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. Thank you for having me here this evening. I did hand out, I brought something with me today just to make it easier to talk through for you. I want to kind of summarize, where we are with the audit. Again, I'm Randy Shepard, I'm the audit partner. I have with me Erica Proctor, who is the manager on the account, helping me through the process. So there's a lot of new faces here. I can't really see them fully, but I know there's a lot of new faces on the board, so it's good to meet you here. So looking at kind of the audit timeline, the third slide in there. So we began the field work, back in late May, in the middle, kind of in the height of the pandemic. And obviously, it's clear that the pandemic impacted you as well as any other organization, in terms of being able to prepare for audits. We've had several engagements that have been delayed for various reasons. You also had various staff departures during the year, obviously impacting Haley and her staff's ability to get things done. So we kind of were working off and on throughout June, and then we picked up again during the August and September timeframe, to try to keep working through this. One of the main pieces that we're working or waiting on was the CFA, which is the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. So that's one of the major pieces of information we need to determine what federal programs we have to test. So that was kind of delaying our ability to restart. And then we resumed in earnest in November, and including last week even, with various aspects still ongoing. So where we stand right now is all the federal deadlines for submissions because of the COVID pandemic were pushed out to December 31st. Normally, this would have been due 9/30. It's 9 months after year end, but they were pushed out to 12/31. So I just want to make clear that the county is not delinquent with any filing requirements. You're still in line with that, and we're working through that to make sure that we get everything done in time. So what have we identified so far? One of the most significant items was a prior period adjustment that we're going to need to record related to the workers' comp fund. And I know that there's been several discussions within the county related to what's going on in the workers' comp fund, but essentially we determined in looking at the reserves that were booked for claims was understated. The information we had been given previously in previous audits wasn't sufficient. And when the new TPA, the new organization, NCA Comp, who prepared that for you, showed a much larger liability. Compounding that, when you deal with workers' comp, there's a component of that called incurred but not reported claims, IBNR, if you've heard that phrase before. So, there also was not a liability associated with incurred but not reported claims being picked up. So the impact of those two pieces is about a $4.4 million negative adjustment to fund balance in the workers' comp fund, as well as a liability. And so, Chris worked through NCA Comp to get some estimates of what that IBNR might be, because it is an actuarially calculated figure normally, which wasn't done yet, and that's where that number came at. And they basically said 100% of the reserve is a pretty good estimate of what the IBNR would be. And that's pretty consistent. We see anything up to 130% of the reserves being IBNR. So that's something, and we'll discuss later, a recommendation that for going forward. So that was probably the biggest adjustment that we had to make related to that. Looking at the current, in terms of the current audit procedures, through the course of the audit process, as Haley continues to work through things in her office and working through accounts, she identifies areas of improvements, areas that things may not have been captured appropriately in the past. Some of the adjustments that we've identified so far, there's an adjustment related to accounts receivable, and we say deferred inflow here for capital. That relates to the DASNY grant for Sampson Veteran Cemetery. That was vouchered in the July-August timeframe of 2020. But because that grant was actually in place during the year, the work was done during and prior to 2019. That is really revenues that are receivable that should have been recorded, so we're booking that adjustment. There's a few adjustments related to accounts payable and expenses, totaling about 1.1 million, almost $1 million of which relates to capital. So historically, the county just records capital expenditures when they occur and not related to the period of time where they actually related to. So, or when the cash goes out the door is when they would book them. So normally at year end, we record that. And so we have to do that again. There's a small adjustment, or it's not a small, another adjustment related to cash and receivable related to the sales tax. It's kind of a pass-through. It comes into an ACH account. And so the county booked it as a receivable, but it was in a county-owned bank account. So we're just going to reclass where that's located. Interest income relates to some CDs. There's an 18-month CD, a few of them, where we need to book that value up to the fair market value. So what is the accrued interest value on that? And then another entry related to workers' comp. This one actually decreased that value. So we had booked about a $4.4 million adjustment at the end of basically at the end of 18. We reduced that down to about 3.6 or so at the end of 19, based on a lot of the things that are happening. There was an adjustment related to depreciation expense on the government-wide financial statements, about $350,000. And then the last adjustment relates to some findings that Haley and the consultant for DHS identified related to state and federal aid of about 1.9 million, and they're still looking at that. So that was essentially claims related to RF2As. Some overclaiming that had been done in the past was sitting as due from state and federal government, so they had to write that down. In terms of internal control considerations, I mean, that's the other thing that we think about, or that we're looking at here related to the county audit. There are a couple new accounting standards that are effective. One of them relates to asset retirement obligations. So when you talk about the decommissioning of the wastewater treatment plant, there is a potential liability to be recorded there, depending on where that stands. And I'm working with Haley and with Mitch to get that information. Fiduciary activities, this is a new standard as well. Trust and agency is an area that you're probably used to seeing in your books, monies that you're holding for somebody else. A lot of the rules about where that has to be recorded is changing, as well as those accounts that are held by elected officials. So a lot of times, many of them feel as though that they're their monies, they don't belong to the county, but 9 times out of 10, those are in the county's tax ID number, which defines custody of the asset. And once you have custody of the asset, there's a different reporting requirement for that. And so this standard clarifies that. And so we'll have to make some adjustments. And the GASB 84 is effective for next year. So your 2020 audit, the asset retirement is effective for the 19 audit. Areas related to closing of the books, timeliness of reconciliations related to the vouchering and payables, especially capital projects, areas that need to continually be worked on. Bank reconciliations are very critical, need to be done on a more timely basis. And then the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, as I mentioned, that was one of those things that was delaying our start a little bit. I think the departments in finance just have to work more closely, identifying which grants are federally funded, which ones are passed through federal, through the state from the federal government, and recognizing where those should be recorded, and cleaning that up a little bit. And then the last few internal control considerations, again, workers' comp. I do suggest that the county have an actuarial study to determine what the IBNR level should be, because essentially at this point in time, with these adjustments, it makes the workers' comp fund appear unfunded or underfunded, so in a negative situation. So what that implies to me as an auditor looking at that is the rates and charges aren't sufficient to fund the potential liabilities. So that's kind of something to look at there. Looking at the DOT area, we do a single audit for New York State purposes. There was one project, any project that's over $250,000 is required to be bid out. You can't use county labor for that. And I think it was Gravel Road, County Road 101, was in excess of that, and that was not bid out. We could not find evidence of that being bid out. And then lastly, due to from activity is a little bit old. There's a lot of things in there that need to be cleaned up, and I know that Haley's working through that now. Any questions on those at all? Okay, and then lastly, in terms of, as I said, what we're trying to do, completion plan here, we're working on drafting the financial statements right now. We're in the process of doing that. We're obtaining any outstanding audit evidence that we need to finish our testing. And then our target is to provide drafts to the county no later than the 22nd. I think there is a scheduled board meeting that day. So if we have draft statements at that point, we'll be back to present those. And then the goal would be no later than the 30th to have the final issued financial statements completed so that we can make sure the county's in compliance with all the deadlines and requirements that you have. So that's what we're working towards with Haley and her staff to get that done. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
Nope. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for giving an update, a draft anyway, what's in store. So you think you'll be done by July, by
We're doing whatever we can.
22nd?
Yeah, we want to make sure, we don't like to have anybody delinquent. We'll do what we have to do to get everything done and get there. We're close. We were shooting to try to have some draft statements today, but we couldn't get there, which is why I put this other piece of material together for you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, COVID-19 update from Tom Murray, member of the COVID-19 Special Committee. Welcome, Tom.
Good evening, Chairman, Board. Thanks for having us here. Everybody hear me okay?
Very well.
So a couple things. Tonight, I think you have in front of you a policy that you adopted, or we adopted with your blessing several months ago that came back out to the Health and Services Committee to be voted on by the whole board tonight. The reason for that is some of the supervisors on our committee felt there needed to be some changes due to the fact that, as you all know, COVID is a fluid mechanism, and so we needed to change with the, in terms of our policy in regards to what was happening in the community and also in our region. So you also have in front of you tonight an amended version of our policy that we'd like you to review, and possibly later we could take a vote on that. So in fact, we do have a policy to work off of. Just the gist of it is that we've got the supervisors involved on a first contact basis, with the exception of one in our county. So I think that's a great buy-in by all the supervisors to be part of that first line of education and cooperation. And then if it's flagrant, we're jumping right to a step 3. It's to streamline our process because we pretty much know who the culprits are now. They seem to be the same week in and week out. And for the most part, 90% of our businesses are doing a really good job. And we've got a few bad actors, but we're starting to clean those up. And needless to say, our efforts have already started to reap rewards in terms of compliance. So we're excited about that. One of the other things that I want to talk about in a positive light is we brought Melissa Taylor on board onto our committee, and she's been proven to be a big asset. She's helping Vicki in the health department, sanitarians, put together some numbers, keeping everything updated. But on a bigger scale, we tasked the group to work together to start to put together some mobile testing sites. But more importantly, when we get the vaccine here, those sites will be used and ready to go because we're going to know how to do it. Because we've been through the setup. So we're encouraging, retired nurses, ESM personnel, firemen, to get trained if they want to be someone to give the vaccine, because when it's here, we need to get it used. So the cooperation between the two groups is going to be very beneficial to that. I'll take any questions at this time.
Tom, can you, hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
How you doing? Can you walk back through the modified process that you're suggesting?
Sure.
I see the original being First step being outreach, second step being a formal letter of warning, third step being fines. Can you reiterate,
Right.
please?
So our process, in a nutshell, was taking too long, Kyle. By the time we met every Monday and decided what to do with them the next week, we were sometimes 3-4 weeks out before we could actually get to a second phase, by the time people got around to verifying everything and whatnot. So we've instituted a process where the first line of defense, so to speak, is to go to the business by the supervisor, make personal contact with them. It does two things, in my opinion. It engages the supervisor with the business to show that the supervisor cares about your business. They're here to help you, to educate, okay? Once that is completed, if it's flagrant enough, well, first of all, the supervisor will report within 48 hours, 3 to 5 business days of his findings. If it's flagrant enough, we'll send somebody from the county back in to verify that. At that point, which is 2 weeks in, at the committee level, we will make a decision whether there needs to be a violation notice sent or not. And quite honestly, what we've got now is we've got people that comply and people that don't. So there's not much room between step 1 and step 3, really, okay? So we're just basically eliminating step 2 to get us a little bit closer to compliance on an immediate level. Because when we get to step 3, things seem to happen very quickly.
Have we gotten to step 3?
We have 2 businesses in step 3, and they're both have reached out to us and want to comply. Pay the fine and comply.
They have paid a fine and?
They will be paying a fine. They have consented to do that.
Are there any businesses that are not?
Not at this time, Again, we've spent 7 to 9 months with a lot of these businesses trying to get them to comply. We spent a lot of hours out there, personnel, back and forth. And now that it's time, like I've said right from the beginning, the best way to get somebody's attention is to go to their pocketbook. Now that we're there, all of a sudden everybody wants to play ball. Okay? So.
Tom, is your recommendation to eliminate step 2 and incorporate the formal letter of warning into step 1?
It's not a formal letter of warning until it is verified by the county staff.
But still sort of step 1, right?
Step 1A, if you want to say that,
Okay, but we still will be issuing, your recommendation is that we will still issue a formal letter of warning?
Yes. Yeah. It's just to let you know, there's been a complaint, we need to follow up with it. And quite honestly, 9 times out of 10, outside the bad actors, it's a very pleasant visit, and it's a reminder to do all you can. There also needs to be a personal level of responsibility in this time, the time we're in right now. Everybody needs to do what they have to do to protect each other. And whether you believe it or not, just look at our numbers in this county. I know we're doing a lot more testing, but we don't need to overwhelm our health services. And that's where it becomes crucial. So hopefully, if you have any more questions about this.
Now, Tom, can you please assure the board and the public that we are, in fact, going to be looking at some of the bigger companies that people think we don't?
It's a great point. It's a great point, committee member. I did fail to mention that tonight. We have some corporate businesses that have been kind of untouchable from a standpoint of compliance or interaction with our county attorney. So we are, I guess the best way to put it, we're closer than we've ever been to be able to have a point of contact with people. And so there's going to be some conversations with these bigger department stores that will let them know that we're watching them and we want them to be in compliance too. So that might be coming down the line as well.
Have we received complaints about these larger stores?
We have.
And then purposely not followed up?
No, not purposely. It's just that we go to them and tell them the complaint. We get a message back from corporate, I'll let Dave address this unless I'm wrong, that says, it's really a regional level or a mid-regional level, we're not going to do anything about it. And basically it's asking the customers to put a mask on, and keep it on when you're in your store. So.
Mr. Attorney, can you give us a little bit more detail on that?
We've had really good communication with, I'll be honest, with just flat out with Walmart. They picked up very strong, really pretty much in August and September. They're making some changes, but I've been dealing with not only their corporate council in Bentonville, Arkansas, but also with their regional councils here up on the East Coast. What tends to happen is at the store level, the message gets lost. And they're taking and that's one of the things we've talked about, and also we've actually talked about moving forward. We've tried to deal with them in terms of cooperation. They have tried to work with us. We've now had some fallback at Lowe's, but as another example, we have some very good communication with the Dollar General store chain. I've been in touch with their council in Nashville. They're willing to work with us. If we have a complaint, they'll actually look at their security tapes in Nashville, which they have the capacity to do, to assist us in determining what level was it a store manager problem, was it a customer problem, or whatever. I had early discussions with Tops. Tops has not been a problem, and again, they were very supportive. So it's at the local level, and now that I've got some communication with a couple of the regionals, they're actually prepared to come down on it. Not here locally, but it was reported to me, Dollar General has in fact disciplined employees at different areas around the country because they've been able to verify issues, and I have no reason to believe they're not going to be able to work with us on that.
If I can follow up, have any of these companies reached the same level as the companies that we are fining and we are choosing not to?
No.
Okay, thank you.
But I do believe that these companies are responding to the national surge, and not only here locally, but nationally, what's going on.
Sure, I just want to make sure we're not treating them any
I'm sure their response to us is in direct reflection of what's happening, not just something fluky.
No, but we also had decided that we can proceed with these big companies,
right,
and we can do the process the same as we do the small ones.
Yeah.
So if we send it on to their corporation, and they're we find that they're not doing what they need to do, they will get in that same step process as the locals have, where there'll be fines, or if they don't pay the fines and do the consent order, they can be shut down.
Right.
So I just want that to be out there in the public, that we're not ignoring them.
And I think the public needs to understand that the committee has bent over backwards to work with all these businesses. And to be, defiant in our face for several weeks, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand somewhere. And it's just amazing to me, as soon as we draw that line in their pocketbook, all of a sudden we get compliance. And it's unfortunate that it has to go to this step, but I mean, that's just where we are. And I just feel like as a county board, we need to adopt, amend the policy we have with this new policy, so we have a policy to go by. Because like I said, I think our time frame is of essence important to be able to get compliance and education and get them on board with everybody else, so.
And I just want to add to that, I appreciate the supervisors are wanting to take part, but that it's imperative that they get out there within 48 hours and try to do that visit.
Yep.
Because then again, if not, we've wasted another week before we can proceed on to another step. Yep. So.
Yes, Kyle?
Again, I think that's a step in the right direction in terms of the stick instead of the carrot. Do we, I don't see it outlined in the policy here, do we issue press releases or anything when we find businesses?
We did do with the solder store, we did. And I think that's policy going forward. And there'll also be another press release to their consent. Okay, to follow up, to let the public know that there's been a settlement to it.
So I think, again, that should be outlined in the policy pretty clearly, and then as long as we're consistent and don't pick and choose which businesses we're publicly shaming.
I think we're pretty uniform across the board. I mean, I think the committee's done a great job of vetting out who is and who isn't. And listen, it's not easy when you're trying to mix economic times with COVID times and keeping everybody, trying to keep as many businesses open and as safely as possible.
If anybody,
I guess I just want to
Mike,
add
go ahead.
something. Okay. First of all, Tom, I appreciate your help, and I appreciate the committee. But there's something that I want clear out there. Walmart has had 40 complaints, and they've gotten no monetary fines. Lowe's has gotten 5, Sauter's has gotten 52, Dollar General has gotten 12, J. Martin's Auctions has gotten 9, Burn Dairy got 12, Back to Nature's got 10, Circle K has got 7, and yet we have a business that is getting a $1,000 fine that's got 4, and then we have one that's got 52. I just find that hard to say at this time that we've been fair and equal when those numbers do not lie. We have not, I mean, they speak for themselves, you know? I mean, so I know it's a tough thing, and it's something that we have to continue to work at, but I don't think it's been cut and dry. I mean,
I have a question, Mike. Were the 40 from Walmart, once we started the committee, that one date that we started was when we were gonna start complaints. So I, for one, once the COVID committee started, don't recall 40 coming back through on Walmart. Now, maybe throughout the whole time it was 40, but not since the committee was started. And if I'm wrong, then show me I'm wrong, and I'll say that I'm wrong.
I appreciate that.
So you just got the numbers from the complaints, correct?
Yes.
And I don't think that's the way we.
But I still think, I don't have the dates in front of me.
Yeah.
But I still can't believe if we go back and look at the dates that some of these businesses that are getting fined right now are gonna have more complaints than the corporate chain stores. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, then so be it.
That's 52, so that's a pretty damn.
I'm not arguing about Sauter's.
Okay.
And you know, they didn't choose to proceed with fighting. They're gonna pay a fine, that's their choice.
They took it all the way to the last step, though.
I understand that.
Right to today, because tomorrow is a hearing.
We need a policy that's clear and fair to everybody, whether they're a mom and pop in the backyard or a corporate chain store. That's my point, and I don't think we've done that.
Okay, we all agree, and why don't you tell us then what we can do to make it better? Because I'm all for it. What can we do then to make it better? Everybody's gonna be fair.
Well, I have a question, and forgive me, I'm not on the COVID committee, so some of these might be dumb questions, but I just heard a $1,000 fine. I wasn't aware that that was the.
Per violation.
And that was the question. Is it
Per violation.
That was 4 violations, $1,000, right?
3.
So if there was 5 violations in a business,
You could be.
there would be a $5,000 fine.
It could be a $5,000
Could be
fine.
a 5,000.
I see, because there's some escalators here, right?
Or the $200 fines.
Yeah, what happened to the
That's
250?
That was stolen. Because there was an issue because of the, you know, it was spelled out in the original policy as well that based upon the, I'll use the term willful and wanton or gross violation, that the sanctions could go beyond the original scale structure. Secondly, the thing that you have to recall, and I appreciate Supervisor Enslow's comment, we log in all of the complaints. One of the strongest points that was made when the original policy was adopted is we do not act on anonymous complaints. And in fact, dealing with a couple of my corporate people, being able to go back and check records, in fact, many of, I won't say a lot, but I mean, we get a reasonable number of complaints that are anonymous that are not validated. And that was an important part that this board had. We record all of the complaints. If we have a problem with them, we have issued what we call a complaint letter that says we did in fact get a complaint. You need to pay attention to this, you know, it may be followed up. But we do not take formal action against any business without a validated complaint. One of the hardest cases to deal with are the complaints where the report is a customer in a store is not wearing a mask. Those are very transitory. They're very difficult to validate. And so that's why we've spent a great deal of effort working with store managers, and that's where my corporate contacts come in, to make sure the word comes down to the local management team that the answer that we do not enforce that is not acceptable. And Dollar General is now extremely supportive of that, and we're hoping to get that same kind of response. We were getting it slowly from Walmart again. We were going to have to deal with Lowe's as the large stores. The greatest issue has been store employees. And that's where we have, that's easy to review and validate. And so that, you know, that is part of the reason you see a lot of complaints, and we make it a point to try and follow through with them. But a lot of the complaints for customer masking is extremely difficult to validate and directly enforce. But when we get the reports from a manager that says we're not going to do anything about it, that's when we're taking stronger action.
And I guess to David's point, and to Mike, your point too, when you say a business has 4 and they're getting fined, it's because they've been very flagrant in our face that they're not going to do anything. So we've taken the initial action, which is stated in here that we can do, is escalate that program. It's not that to say that they couldn't have got 60 complaints themselves. It's just that they're adamant they're not going to do anything about it. And they tell it to you right in your face. So that to me,
I went there and they basically spat in my face, but.
Well, there you go.
But, listen, the sign on the door, how do we know we're not stepping over the line with freedom of speech with that sign on the door? That's their opinion. They can put whatever they want on their business.
Yeah, okay.
That's freedom of speech.
For the sign, I think they were fine.
No, but that sign motivated the escalation. I was there. I heard it. That was part of the motivation for escalation.
You're coming back and telling us that they spit in your face was part of it too.
You know what? But it's not, I don't feel we're still right.
Okay.
Lowe's is not going to enforce this. So I want to know what our county attorney is going to do to Lowe's, because they're not going to enforce it. I was there today at lunchtime. They're not going to do it.
I will do what the committee recommends me to do. I am not going out on my own on any of this matter.
Correct, and the committee now is gonna stop, minus the second phase.
Yep.
They'll get a violation. They come to hearing. If they don't come, they pay a fine. If they want to consent, they pay a fine. If they don't, go to a hearing. Okay? That's simple.
Yep, it's gone from a, extended process to a really quite short, because quite frankly, we've been in this 9 months. Businesses know what the rules are. They're not that hard. Masking, social distancing, and disinfectant. If you can do that, we're going to work with you. If you're just telling us we're not going to do it, then we're going to come after you. That's all there is to it.
The other issue is with the bigger stores, I was in Walmart today, okay, is following up on a complaint. When this all started, Walmarts and the Lowe's of the world had a policy in place. They had somebody at the door. They were counting people in the room or in the building. They were ensuring that when you walked in the building, you had a mask on, okay? My observation is all the employees all the time have their mask on in both places, okay? The problem is in Walmart and Lowe's is that customers walk in either without a mask, which is not right, or B, once they get in the store, their mask goes like this. That's next to impossible to enforce unless you got the COVID police walking around aisle and aisle. Put your mask on, put your mask on, put your mask on. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
I mean, if somebody was walking around without pants on, Mike, I think any employee would stop and say, you can't be walking around without pants.
Absolutely.
I know that there's a ton of employees out there ready to help anybody at all. I mean, I think in a public health emergency, they should be willing to pitch in here.
Well, again, now it's convincing it's not the responsibility of the $11.80 clerk stocking the shelves to, hey, put your pants up. Okay?
It is, actually.
Well, it's not going to happen, Kyle, sorry. It ain't going to happen in real life.
Then they can play along with every other business.
They are playing along.
That's fine.
They are playing along.
No issue.
After today's meeting, they're reinstituting somebody at the door to ensure that people have their mask on.
Yeah, no issue.
After today's meeting, they're going to continue to make announcements throughout the day as they had in the past. Okay?
Great.
So they're not being treated any differently than anybody else. As Tom said, they don't blatantly tell you to, like I went to another business today in Seneca Falls, and the owner told me, get out. I'm not going to follow your protocols. You're not taking away my liberties. Nobody's going to wear a mask. My employees aren't. My customers aren't. I'm putting a sign on the door that we don't need to wear a mask. Okay, you're blatantly in violation.
Yep.
Completely different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Okay. Now, can I say a few words?
No.
So I brought to the committee, Mike and I were the ones that wanted to do some changes. I brought to the committee about the big box stores because I can say we weren't treating them the same. None of the big box stores had a supervisor go out and visit them. We weren't following the protocol on that. And Dave was trying to contact him as much as he could. So one of the things I wanted to change in there was some language on how to deal with the big box stores, which I did see that we got this at 1 o'clock this afternoon in our email. I was busy all afternoon. This is the first time I put eyes onto it right now. So I know we were talking about trying to get this through later today, but I haven't even had a chance to read through it yet. It came in so late. So I'm not prepared to hang my hat on something that I didn't read, number one. Number two, none of this even deals with the big box corporate stores, gas stations, stuff like that, that I think I talked about that said a supervisor going out really isn't going to help because nobody's going to talk to the supervisor. I guess maybe that's wrong because you got that.
You guys attending different meetings on Monday mornings that I'm attending? Because this is all new information.
Yep.
As of Monday morning, we were all set to move forward. Is this something new going on?
Did we see this Monday morning?
It is. I'm very confused.
It's not in print, Mike, that's the problem. I think we all agreed that
Talked
we're.
about it 10 minutes.
And most of us aren't on the committee, so we're just
No,
asking.
I'm talking to Joe and Mike.
Right.
We're at every Monday morning meeting.
I agree,
We left
Mike.
yesterday's meeting with this coming forward. And no, we didn't have the actual written words, but pretty much we all agreed at that meeting that this was going to move forward contextually. We knew it was going to be in there contextually. I'm not talking about you.
I know,
I'm
but
about the committee.
I'm asking questions for everybody else, and then Tom's telling us about the changes.
And we never addressed the big boxes. We talked about that, and we were moving forward. So I'm confused. And
I'm more confused than you are, to be honest with
And
you.
the manager talked to me and cooperated with me. If I need to go to Lowe's, I'll be more than happy to go to Lowe's. I just can't believe when you go to Lowe's, the manager doesn't talk to you. I can't believe that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe I
Mike, maybe you misunderstood me. I talked to the manager today. I said I talked to the manager. Maybe you misunderstood me.
No, I didn't say you.
Oh, all right.
I didn't say you.
Okay.
No, but
Joe said that they won't talk, they don't talk to the town supervisor.
I said we haven't been sending out the town supervisor. You must have misunderstood me.
Okay.
Has a town supervisor been to Burn Dairy?
And not in my, I can't tell you, not in my jurisdiction.
Has a town supervisor been to Circle K, which we've got a lot of complaints?
The issue
You
with
have?
Circle K and Burn Dairy very simply is the managers at locally have no authority to do anything.
So why does this process here not say, for big box corporations, it doesn't make sense to do step one, which says the town supervisor go out? It deals nothing with corporations.
I mean, while I understand the point of that, I don't think it's a good idea to differentiate the size of a company with our.
Then we need to do what it says, and we need to try and send a supervisor out instead of just bypassing it altogether. We have a policy, we need to follow it.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a recommendation that any movement on the COVID-19 task force go back to committee next Monday, and hopefully the committee itself will get things in order on their part and then bring it back to the full board on the 22nd?
And I'm sure we'll probably have a special board meeting on the 22nd anyway. We could have that.
We have a policy in place now. I think just giving us a little bit more time to actually have us read through it before we vote on to it makes the most sense to me.
Okay, everybody happy?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Tom.
I have a question, though.
Yeah, Dave.
It's gonna be a tough one. So when we have someone like them that are, the store that's getting the $1,000 fine for 5 violations, are those 5 violations something that happened 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks apart, or are they something that happened on the same time? Because
It could be happening all the same time.
what I'm saying is it could be. Is that what it is?
They're typically within they're typically within 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so my question is,
We've had an education visit, they've been issued, and then there's a follow-up, there's another problem, they were issued a letter of warning, there was a follow-up, and they were completely.
okay, I understand the process, but my question is, so if I have 4 violations and it comes to $1,000, I guess the question I have is, if I go down the road and I get caught for speeding, and the officer says, I'm gonna let you go, and he catches me 3 more times, finally says, look what I've had, I'm going to give you 4 tickets for speeding. I'm not going to get in trouble for the first 3 because he has to either do it or let it go. It's a warning or it's a violation. I don't understand why we would do anything different.
After a letter of warning, we
So,
get.
right, that violation, after that would be 1 violation.
Well, the letter of warning doesn't count generally doesn't count for the purposes of the notice of violation.
Right, but what I'm saying,
We have not used any violation prior to a letter of warning.
okay, so then, like the Stony Ridge or whatever it's called, they're getting $1,000 for 3 violations or whatever it is, right?
There were 2 visits, and there were 2 visits. There was a customer violation, employee violation on 2 visits, and a safety plan visit on one of those visits.
Okay, so it would seem to me that when you are, if you're gonna go give them, instead of giving them the chance to make 3 mistakes and get a ticket or the fine, then if you're gonna give them one, give it to them when you walk in at the time it's violation. Say, here is your fine. Now you have an option at that point in time, not wait a bill. Why would we want them to build up the violations and make it 1,000? It should be 200. So that, hey, it cost me $200, I'm not doing this anymore. Guys, we're gonna start complying. Why do I gotta get it to 1,000 and scare the shit out of them?
Because here it is, Dave.
Language, please.
A lot of times we give them the violation, we give them the warning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they said, okay, we're gonna clean this up. Great. We go back and they haven't done a goddamn thing.
Guys, language,
Okay?
please.
So
Guys,
then the violation becomes
Guys.
serious, right? So you say to them again, you know, can you help us out here and get compliance? Yep. You go back a 3rd time and it's the same violation. So that violation doesn't carry forward to from the first time we noticed it. It's something that's happened directly in regards to the notice of violation in a very short period of time.
Right.
Okay? So they, you know.
But I understand the process.
They've had every opportunity to.
I understand. I understand.
Right.
But what I'm saying to you is when you walk in on that violation, you should be giving them 1 ticket unless there's 3 that you've already talked about 3 times. Otherwise, why would you give them 2 other ones, let 1 stand and wait until you have a couple of more and say, look, we've had enough, we're gonna make you pay for all of it?
No, I don't believe that's.
We can revisit that at the committee level.
Right.
I mean,
okay?
that's what you should
And
look.
maybe it's just a matter of having the first fine $1,000.
Okay, whatever level, but what I'm saying to you is that, to tell them that, well, you violated 3 different things, but why didn't you charge me 3 different, why are you waiting until now?
Right,
Right,
right.
you know?
Okay, we'll revisit that.
Okay, Ernie, you had something to say?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, do we have a motion on the floor?
No.
There was one made, wasn't second.
He was,
We can move on. We'll talk this to death all night long. You won't get nothing done, so let's move
Second that
forward.
motion.
okay. So I think we've talked enough. Tom, thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, maybe. Thank you. Next up, Sarah Davis, Executive Director, Seneca County IDA, vacancies available for IDA Board.
got lucky, Sarah. He wore us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So again, you all received a copy of a letter that I'd like to read for the record on behalf of the IDA Board. So, dear Chairman Heisen and members of the Board of Supervisors, this letter is written on behalf of the IDA Board, who would like to convey the importance of filling the 2 open board seats and ask that you place the IDA's recommended candidates for the position on your agenda for consideration at your next meeting and provide IDA staff with the names of your suggested candidates for the position by close of business Friday, December 11th. As many of you are aware, the IDA Board has taken steps to fill the vacancies by posting an announcement in the paper and empowering an interview committee to vet the candidates. 2 applicants were recommended for approval based on the interview committee's belief that they would fill gaps in key industries, specifically agriculture and manufacturing, bring new areas of professional expertise to the board, prioritize the implementation of the economic development strategic plan with the county and the chamber, and bring more diversity to the board. While we understand a few of the supervisors' concerns about having geographic diversity on our board and would be willing to have additional discussions on the subject, the IDA believes it is imperative that we are able to fill these vacancies as soon as possible so that we may continue to ensure that we have a quorum to conduct our meetings where our most important business is accomplished. The IDA's 9-member board is required to have 5 people present to constitute a quorum, even if only 7 seats are filled. The longer we operate at partial capacity, the more difficult it will be for us to serve the business community, which will ultimately negatively impact our entire county. Thank you in advance for your consideration of this request, and please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
I'll just take a little bit of blame for, you know, I had spoken with Sarah a couple of weeks ago, and I sort of stalled the process a little bit because it comes in front of my planning committee as we waited for some supervisors to offer some names. But I think the expectation is that we'll have it on the agenda for next month. And I know that we have submitted names in addition to the 2 that you've submitted. So I'm not quite sure how that process works, but we're back on track.
Okay, we'd appreciate having those names shared with us so we could, at least vet the candidates and have a conversation with them.
Absolutely.
I have one question about the advertising. Did you let us know that you're advertising for these positions?
Yes, the copy of the vacancy filing was sent in an email to IDA board members. I believe the county manager and the board clerk were also copied on that notice.
I never received a copy of it because we had quite a spirited discussion the last time we filled 4 or 5, couple of vacancies like 5 years ago when Valerie Bassett got on. And we had lists and people. We had our own committee set up too here to go over the candidates, and we narrowed them down. And one candidate wasn't chosen by the IDA, but this board did put that person on the IDA board. So I think in the future you should let us know about it because we have all these new members here, and that's what got me thinking. We don't have just one. We only had one person from the South End, so I asked the new board members from the South End if they had any candidates who were interested possibly in serving. So we're at that stage right now. And we did want to interview the candidates, but we want to do it right here live, and you want to do it with a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody liked that idea.
Wait, we're going to interview candidates in front of the whole board?
No, we're going to have this interview process.
No.
I wouldn't want to be interviewed by this.
Kyle, we asked for a couple IDA asked for a couple people from the board to interview. So we were willing to sit here and interview, but they wanted to do the interviewing process through a Zoom meeting. Okay.
We offered the room, and we reached out to Sarah a couple times. I know I placed a call personally and voiced some of my concerns, and could you not share the names that you had with us? And at that point, I said, if not with myself, then with the chairman, and those names were not shared by who you had picked. So
we hadn't picked anyone at that time. We were forming the interview committee, which was meant to be jointly made up of IDA board members and supervisors to sit down together to vet the candidates.
Yeah, but at no point were we able to cooperate enough with each other to be able to do that. So kind of has been both ways.
Respectfully, looking at the way things have trended with COVID, I don't regret that we chose to do our interviews virtually.
Yeah, but except for that's when the board had already decided that we've done public meetings since when? Because we've had space and the shields and the mask. So I understand. It's your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, open privilege of the floor. Anybody here to address the board? Okay. Come on up, state your name, what town you're from, or whatever area, or whatever.
Hello, board members. My name is Peter Jennings. I'm a town of Romulus resident. I just have a couple comments to make. Some questions about the practice of the IDA and how they operate. Some disappointment in the way they have been handling some of these recent situations. I spoke at their brief public hearing. The fact that it occurs at 12 o'clock in the afternoon was a pretty big disappointment for anybody that works. The fact that it only lasted about 15 minutes probably speaks to the fact that nobody else actually showed up. And Sarah was able to summarize everybody's comments in about 2 sentences to her entire board. So that worked out really well for her. And then I was looking for the public notice for the actual public hearing, and it was actually the wrong public notice on their website. They got it fixed within 6 days before the actual public hearing. So I guess that's legal. My question was about Mr. Trout. He's on the Board of Supervisors, and he's also on the IDA board, right? So are you a representative of the Board of Supervisors?
Yep.
So my question is, the Board of Supervisors voted against the pilot program and against the sale of the depot, right? But you voted in favor of?
Correct.
So you're going against the board itself? Is that a personal vote?
Yes.
I still am against the pilot itself. The fact that there was 0 employment opportunities, another giveaway to Mr. Martin. you know, a 3.8 million assessment for the 172 acres, and we somehow sold it for 65,000. You know, 3.7 million you just gave him. And then on top of that, now we're gonna give him a pilot program. You know, 97,000 in property taxes reduced to 10,000. You know, it's another 87,000 for the first year. Meanwhile, you know, his plan was collecting $10,000 in rent a month from the former owner of the whitetail deer operation. So I guess that's 1 month to rent for him, right? And, you know, IDA was concerned about the carrying cost and having to winterize the property. And, you know, they spoke about $80,000 to $100,000 for the upkeep for the year. Yet they've been collecting, I don't know how much in rent from Kids Piece and collecting all that money, but where'd all that go? They couldn't afford the upkeep for a year to get a good process and get a good proposal and do some better advertisement and get some good bidders in here to actually bid on something that's worth the value of the property. I mean, $350,000 that you guys came up with for an estimate of the value of the property for 172 acres doesn't even make sense. We couldn't even buy that anywheres in Seneca County for 172 acres, not let alone all the actual buildings on the property. And I keep hearing from a number of supervisors, well, we haven't been out to the property, we don't know what the actual shape is, you know, and it's been meeting after meeting and nobody goes. Get out there and go.
Did you vote on the property, sir?
No, I didn't.
Vote on the property?
No, I did not.
How come?
I don't have any interest in it.
$65,000, that's a heck of a 172 acres of.
If I didn't just buy a house myself, I probably would have considered it. I mean, I could have used the swimming pool.
I looked at it myself.
The fact that I don't think it was very well advertised to begin with is part of the problem. So, and you know, the IDA should be working with the Board of Supervisors, and it seems like constantly they're here arguing the fact that the board doesn't do anything good for businesses and arguing about why aren't you supporting us, and you know, it doesn't seem like they're really here for the county representatives or even for the county residents themselves, just here to benefit Earl Martin. All right.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Any questions for Mr. Jennings? Yep, Cindy.
Yeah, so I
Got a question for you.
not really a question, just a statement. So I appreciate your coming forth. It's not easy to get up and speak to a whole room full of people, especially on anything that's controversial. So we did ask for a tour. I think we asked for a tour a few times, and we got no response, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. So last night, at the last minute, I said, I'm gonna go out there. Well, I used to work at the depot when I was a kid, when I was in high school. And I thought that I remembered everything, but you know what? Lo and behold, I did not. So I, actually, by saying this, I probably was trespassing, but whatever, I'm a board member and I wanted to take a tour. And on the supervisor's desk, there are some pictures that I took of buildings that were not run down. There's a gym. There's a vocational education center. There's a couple administration buildings. And unfortunately, the pictures aren't the best because, you know, I went out about 4:30 at night. But we do need to tour that. The supervisors need to get a tour. The IDA, we asked them, you know, if they could arrange a tour for us, and we have not. But I do think that that's something that we need to do because these pictures don't do justice. Riding out and seeing what I saw with my own eyes does justice. And, you know, I guess maybe later I'll have a few more questions to ask of Ms. Davis and the IDA, but yeah, 65 grand. And I totally agree. We could have helped them possibly winterize that because it is COVID times and nobody's gonna come out and look. And I just think it should have been out there more. They should have networked more. And this was not the year to try to sell in the middle of COVID. So I totally agree with everything you said.
Well,
But I do want to let you know that I did go out there and I did look, and I do think that this board needs to tour as a board.
Cindy, is this sunlight reflection or is that windows that are lit up with light?
Those are windows that are lit up, sir, that I will ask about later.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd like to add to Cindy's comments. I've seen it several times, this stuff. If everybody remembers correctly, we heard from the IDA how the building, the reason it sold for what it was because it was dilapidated, terrible buildings, terrible shape. So what are you gonna winterize? If everything's in terrible shape, what are you gonna spend money on to winterize? Obviously, somebody's spending money to winterize. We've been sending the water department out there to help them turn off water to buildings that apparently need to be winterized because they're still
good shape,
useful. Why would we turn water off to a building that's no good? Just shut it off. Don't worry about winterizing it. We're working with them to winterize the place on something that supposedly is dilapidated, terrible, not used for nothing, it's no good for nothing, but yet, it's, like I said, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, it's a travesty.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute travesty.
We'll send a letter to government.
We did send a letter to the
Okay,
governor.
Mr. Ferrara, you had your hand up after.
Yeah, just a comment, I think the IDA, hopefully, I don't know who's making the decisions that everything should be Zoomed, and I appreciate the caution, but from what I'm hearing from constituents and people, that it needs to be more accessible in a live situation, and it needs to be held at a time that people can attend the meetings, not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock. Again, I get the COVID thing, but there is a way to do things properly. This room is available. Other areas are available that are large. Obviously, 2 board members have continued to come to a public meeting, and you wear masks and you sit 6 feet apart from each other and everything is safe. Certainly 9 people can do that in this room with guests. So I would just like the IDA, obviously, hopefully hearing that there's some issues, that consider going to live meetings, unless of course the executive orders put a kibosh to them. But I think it would be more conducive and better for everybody to understand each other and come to an appreciation of everything. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, any more questions for?
Well, I'm not so sure if maybe now should be the time that I ask questions. So by going out last night and taking the pictures, I'm just gonna come right out front and ask Miss Davis if she can come back to the podium. Thank you, sir. Yep. For a couple of very specific questions.
I don't see any white deer in here. Where are they?
So basically, I've been called by a number of people that are saying that Earl Martin is in the process of doing migrant housing. So I'd like to know if that is a fact, because I don't like rumors, and when I hear them, I usually confront people and say, hey, I heard this, is that a fact or not a fact? By seeing the building all lit up last night on one whole floor, but I will say there were no vehicles, I start to wonder. And then I see from the Varick or the Romulus Planning Board, the month of August 3rd, company went to them, maybe you can help me out here, Supervisor Hayes, looking to possibly build housing for migrants.
That's not at that location.
No, they wanted another location,
That's
but
correct.
somebody on the Romulus Planning Board, according to the minutes, had said, have you ever thought about going to Hillside?
That's correct.
Okay, so to me, 2 and 2, okay, if in August, people were looking for that, and now we have somebody that's bought all the 65 grand with all these buildings, that some of them are in good shape, is that possibly a plan? Even though I know it wasn't a plan that was documented in his bid proposal that he put, because I think it was like campsites and gondolier and history. Nowhere in that did I see migrant housing. So the question that I'm asking, is that a possibility that he's looking at? Do you know, as the IDA?
Yes, Mr. Martin has submitted to us a sublease for review that was made and agreed on after his bid was submitted, that a company approached him looking for housing opportunities and wanted to work with him.
But yet that same, you're the same group that came to us and said these buildings are dilapidated. How the hell are you putting people there to house then? Because you know what I'm getting? I'm getting a bunch of lies, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. He knew all along. And
Now
if
I know
you guys
why.
think that we're here and we're gonna buy a Brooklyn Bridge from you, let me tell you right now, I'm not.
Now we know why they don't want to shut down the sewer plant.
There you go. And you know another thing I'm
That's
gonna
why
recommend?
nobody wanted to negotiate. Exactly.
So nobody has the, kahunas to come right out and ask, but I do. Because I've had way too many calls saying migrant workers are going there. Way too many. And for you guys not to come and be transparent, this is exactly why you're not business friendly. And you know what? You can sit down, because I'm not gonna ask any more questions. I've gotten all the answers that I need.
Okay, I guess we're done with this segment. Okay, where were we?
Approval of minutes.
We should talk about COVID-19 committee.
Now, open privilege of the floor. Anybody else here wants to address the board? Anybody else?
They have to do inspections, I'll ask that later. And not to them.
Okay, very good. Approval of minutes of November 10th and November 24th.
Motion?
The motion?
Second.
A second? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, reports to standing committees. Supervisor McGreevy, Public Health Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Health Services Committee met on November 24th. At that time, the committee approved the reappointment of Dr. Timothy Ryan as the Medical Director for Public Health for a 2-year term expiring October 2022. Also, the fee schedule for the County Environmental Health Division hasn't been reviewed and updated in many years. And based on a study conducted by our Director of Environmental Services of those fees assessed by neighboring counties and the New York State Department of Health, the committee approved and recommends full board approval to update the fee schedule when it comes up later this evening. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor McGreevy. Next up, Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism Committee, Supervisor Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The PDAC committee met on November 24th, and we have one resolution in front of the board tonight to appoint Kyle Black to the Seneca County Planning Board as a representative of the town of Junius. That is all.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Barnhart. Next up, Human Services Committee, Supervisor Borst.
Thank you, Chairman. Human Services met November 24th. We approved annual plans and contracts for the Office of the Aging, annual update to the 4-year plan for services and funding applications, contract 2020-21 with Finger Lakes Community College, and 2020 resource allocation plan for state aid funding for youth programs. We approved the appointment of Karen Tyler, ITT Corp., as a business private sector representative of the Finger Lakes Workforce Investment Board to fill the unexpired term of Stanley Neck until June 20th, 2021. Later tonight, I will be offering a proclamation resolution that proclaims January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Seneca County. That's
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Borst. Next up, Indian Affairs Committee, Supervisor Lott.
As far as I know, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any business tonight, unless there's something from the floor. The attorney, anybody?
We're just going to, we'll probably go into executive session at the end of the meeting to update the board on the progress of the Supreme Court case.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Lott. Next up, Personnel Committee, Supervisor Ferrara.
Thank you, sir. We met November 24th, our committee meeting, and approved refilling a vacant position for a full-time nurse at the Sheriff's Office. Does not require board approval. 3 vacancies were approved to be refilled: full-time employment, training counselor, backfill of full-time employment and training assistant, and a real property tax aide. We created 1 new position as a part-time building maintenance mechanic. All 4 of these positions will be on our, require a waiver to the hiring freeze policy. That's it.
That's very good. Thank you, Supervisor Ferrara. Next up, Water and Sewer Treatment Management and Operations Committee, Supervisor Hayes.
I just want to mention, we did have our public hearing tonight on the segmentation of Sewer District 2, and that is the only resolution we have before us tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Hayes. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Burnell.
All we have tonight is Technical Rescue User Grant Program. And
coroner position. Bring it up later.
Okay,
That's all I have for tonight.
very good. Thank you Supervisor Burnell. Next up, Government Operations Committee, Supervisor Garlic Lorenzetti.
Yeah, there's two dates we're gonna vote on tonight. It'll be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you very much Supervisor Garlic Lorenzetti. Next up, Environmental Affairs Committee, Supervisor Cronewetter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On November 24th, we talked about the Wasco Lake watershed rules and regulations for that watershed. And I talked to Hillary Lambert, the chairman of the Eagle Lake Watershed Network. She would love to give a presentation shortly after the first of the year. If we could put her on the calendar, she would gladly give a presentation on harmful algae blooms in Cuba Lake. And hopefully we can work together to have all the homeowners and property owners along the lake to participate in lake-friendly living and the agriculture community to work towards best management practices so we can mitigate the harmful algae blooms and keep our largest assets free of harmful algae blooms. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much Supervisor Cronewetter. Next up, Public Works Committee, Supervisor Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. Other than the resolutions that'll follow tonight, there are two issues that were discussed during the committee meetings. Issue one was the conveyance of a training asset at the former Army Depot Airfield. The action that came out of it was we were going to ask Earl Martin to sign a contract with the county for the property and get him to construct a new building. That was part of the handshake agreement that was discussed however many years ago we started talking about this conveyance of this asset. After that, we'll decide what we're going to do with the use of the road. Issue two, there was a discussion on county fleet vehicles, specifically the enterprise deal. The action that comes out of this is we are moving away from enterprise by not renewing leases. And in the future, we'll discuss repair and maintenance of said vehicles. That's all.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Trout. Next up, Mental Health Services, Supervisor Envelope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mental Health Services Committee met November 24th, and we're going to vote on accepting funds from the CARES Act, and then 4 appointments to the Community Service Board. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good, Supervisor Envelope. Thank you. Finance Assessment Insurance Committee, Supervisor Reynolds.
I have nothing to report other than the resolutions that are going to come forward. One was the budget, which is probably the biggest one of the week. So that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Reynolds. Okay, reports to special committees. Any reports? Yes,
Mr. Chairman, the Seneca County Cooperative Extension had their annual meeting last night by Zoom. There was probably 40-some people that attended. It was a really good meeting, lasted about an hour and a half. They gave some presentations that I hope maybe can come before this board sometime to show what Cooperative Extension did this past year during COVID, and it was a really interesting meeting. So,
very good.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other special committees?
Sure. The IDA?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it so much tonight that barely even worth bringing up, but it would be nice to replace the people that we need to replace on the board. It is something that has come up several times. Whatever we need to do to make that go faster, I think everybody's willing to do it. And it's just a report. I don't feel like arguing about this. I'll stop talking right now because I don't want to bring anything back up and have another half-an-hour conversation about nothing and get nowhere tonight. Because that's where we keep ending up.
I don't think it's nowhere, Don Trout.
We keep ending nowhere.
No, I don't think so.
What have we accomplished that we didn't accomplish in the past 2-3 weeks?
Wait a minute. This is just a report for special committee.
Yeah, well, he looked right at me, so I'm going to answer it. Okay?
Let him just finish his report.
And, you know, not for nothing, but when we decided to not go with the centralized option anymore, decommissioning the Hillside plant was always on the table. That was part of the way you're going to save several $1 million. This hasn't been something we've hid from anybody, but at the same time, we're asking that we don't sell the Hillside facility for $68,000. At the same time, we're telling them you're not gonna have access to get rid of any sewage or waste anymore. It's almost like you can't really have it both ways. Maybe you should have got some more money out of it, but at the same time, you still need to look at that asset as a negative asset when it cannot get rid of any sewage waste.
That could have been an asset that we could have negotiated too, with the right person and the right job creation and more transparency.
It's still tough to sell it when you can't get rid of sewage.
Tell me that when you've tried to better advertise, okay? But again, that could have been negotiated with this county on how we could have maybe got somebody to come in there and create jobs and to actually do what they put down on the bid that they were gonna do. We would have worked with them. We have before. We did for how many years with Kids Feast? So don't tell me that we wouldn't have. We would have. But you know what I don't like working with? I don't like working with people that don't tell us what they're doing.
I can understand the frustration with hearing about the migrant camp thing tonight. I can get that.
And you know what, Don? I asked you if you knew, and you sat there right now and said yes.
No, I said no.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said no?
No, I didn't know
So
that.
you're on the IDA board, and you didn't even know about it.
What I thought he was doing was the plan he submitted with
You
the,
ought to be pissed off.
I mean, I don't know what good that's gonna do at this point. All I'm saying is you have an asset where they can't get rid of sewage anymore. And then we want more money for them to sell it for more money, but you're taking away a big part of what it would take for a developer to come in.
Again.
Huge cost.
Again, I agree. And this board would have worked with somebody, but there's no jobs created. And everything that this man has done to us has been a lie. He's suing us, what, 2 or 3 times now? Tonight's another lawsuit. Putting a migrant housing, my other question then would be to Department of Health. How the hell can he do that in a condemned building? He can't. So, or he can and nobody cares. I guess you can. You can do anything if you don't get caught.
So anyway, in the last 70 years, there hasn't been any taxes paid on the property. And you're gonna get 10 grand again, you know, for the first time, and I mean, never. So, you know, that's definitely an asset.
It's not a good enough asset.
Well, it's back on the tax roll.
Whatever, I'm not
That's a
gonna
good start.
You're right, you're just telling what you need to do. We can argue about it later, I agree, but I don't agree. I agree that this isn't the time, Don, but for you to be on that IDA board and not know, just
Okay.
astounding to me.
Anything else to report?
Whatever.
Okay.
I think you've already heard it.
Can I say, yes, can I say something good about the IDA? I don't know if any of you travel on 5 and 20 outside of Seneca Falls to go to Auburn. On the east side toward the railroad, there's a big project going on there. That is an IDA finance project for a fertilizer guy that his original business on 318. He's moving to the railroad. The railroad is helping do a spur. I don't know, they bought ground from us or they took ground from us, I'm not sure. But anyhow, there's a spur being built. There's gonna be probably a $20 or $30 million business going out there. And it's something good the IDA is doing. It's gonna benefit all the farmers in this county and surrounding counties. So try to remember that too when we're being so negative.
Well, they should tout that on their PR part then. But what they need to do, Ralph, I know that you're a good friend with Earl Martin, but you must be feeling kind of bad with everything that's going on right now, okay?
I don't know what's going on. I also know that we had 2 public hearings tonight, this group did, and we had 1 person show up for the public hearing. People don't go to public hearings, people. When we expect 20 people to put a bid on the depot on the hillside, it's not gonna happen. There's no interest in that place.
Do you remember the public hearing at Romulus Firehouse? Because I do. You were there and I were there, and the place was full.
They were different times. Maybe the IDA shouldn't have sold it now, but that's hindsight.
Okay, well, public hearings should not be done over Zoom at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when your tax-paying people, yourself included, work. We work.
You have to look what the history was. The IDA has always done their public hearings in the daytime unless there's been a request from somebody to do them at night. Because you're right, the Romulus, we did them at nighttime.
Time out. When I was on the IDA board, we did public hearings at night. I had to press for that, but we did it. I could not press. I tried to get the noon meetings changed, but you know what? I wasn't successful. But you can bet your butt the public hearings weren't done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So,
Okay. Okay.
I told you I should have stopped talking. I told you right at the beginning, I just stopped talking.
But Ralph, I want to thank you for bringing that up. I went out there one day, like over a month ago. I figured out what was going on out there, but somebody should have.
That's Seneca Falls Industrial Park, that's what that is.
That's right, it's going in Industrial Park. We have our second business in Industrial Park. It should be, hopefully there'll be a grand opening one of these days, and we can all go there and cut a ribbon and maybe shake poor Sarah's hand because she needs it.
They aren't going to be offloading garbage, are they there?
No.
I thought we'd change the subject a little bit. Okay, next up, any more special committees? Okay, good. Chairman's remarks, I'll be pretty brief. I attended the control room meeting today. I think Mitch will agree that the governor's probably going to come out with a statement on Friday. Did I hear that right? Yeah. And probably after that statement, probably will be down to maybe 25% on certain things like restaurants and going out and who knows what. So be looking for something that you aren't going to be too happy with come Friday. What do you say? We're probably almost statewide going to be in a yellow or an orange zone and everything else?
Orange or red.
Orange or red.
Yeah.
So
what does that mean to Del Lago? Will that be shut down again then probably?
May go to cut down, I don't know what they're at percentage-wise now, but maybe they'll cut it back to 25% or something, I don't know.
Are we getting any payments from them, Mitch, do you know? I mean, I don't know, I should be even asking that, but, I mean.
Well, they come in quarterly, and I think since they've reopened, we're in the quarter that we probably will see in January. So I don't think we've seen anything of late since they reopened.
Okay, so I made you all happy on that. I wanted to tell Tom, but he left. Make him happy, so.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you said that most likely all of the state will be down to 25%?
More than likely. They were only making a guess. But they're all percentages are
About type of business.
all across the New York State's about as bad as Staten Island is right now in New York, in a few boroughs of New York, so we'll see what happens, or else you'll change the metrics. Next up, county manager's remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have one thing I'd like to share. As a number of you are probably aware, Wreaths Across America is a national event that occurs at veteran cemeteries throughout the country. And since its inception, Sampson Veterans Memorial Cemetery has participated. I drafted a letter that will be going out in the morning from Chairman Heisen to Governor Cuomo, and the chairman has asked me to read it. It's not very long, so if you'll so oblige. Dear Governor Cuomo, on Saturday, December 19, 2020, the Sampson's Veterans Memorial Cemetery will once again participate in the annual Wreaths Across America event. Its mission is to remember, honor, and teach. From the Revolutionary War to present-day conflicts, our veterans are devoted sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, sisters and brothers. They come from all backgrounds in life to place their lives on the line for our freedoms. There are millions of individual stories to tell. Wreaths Across America is a wonderful way to get to know these American heroes. Please consider this an invitation to join us at Sampson to honor our veterans and to see firsthand how fitting this special place is to become New York State's first veteran cemetery. The event will be conducted with COVID-19 precautions and will not involve full and traditional ceremonies. We would be honored by your presence. Sincerely, Robert Heisen, Chair, Seneca County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Chairman.
That sounds good. Kind of emotional because your father was there.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good gesture to let the governor know. Come out here and put a couple of wreaths down and hang out with a few family of deceased veterans. I think it'd be great. So let's hope he'll show up. Okay. Next up, attorney remarks.
I have nothing to say this evening.
Okay. Communications.
Communications 134 to 149.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, on to resolutions. The easy one here. First one, Mike Reynolds, finance assessment and insurance.
Number 15, Board of Supervisors adopts the 2021 county budget.
Support.
Got a second on that, second on that?
Second.
Don't need a second, right?
Did Mike make the motion? Technically, Mike made the motion.
I just need one after me.
We just needed one
Make the
second.
motion.
Supervisor Trout made the second.
Okay, any discussion now? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are no nays. The budget passes unanimously.
Oh.
Thank you. Next up, number 16.
Board of Supervisors authorized contracts with affiliate organizations for 2021.
Support.
Second there, okay. Any discussion?
I have
Yes.
questions real quick. Does this include the Cayuga, I think I might have asked this, Cayuga Seneca Lake watersheds?
Have to ask Mitch on that one.
The watersheds, Cayuga, the Cayuga Lake and the Sweo?
Those are all earmarked under the 10% of the hotel motel tax allocation.
All right, thank
Yes.
you. Just want to make sure. Thanks.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 17.
Board of Supervisors authorizes amendments to the 2020 Seneca County budget.
Support.
A second there, okay. Anybody got any discussion on these changes or amendments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 18.
A resolution adopting Seneca County Local Law Number 3 of 2020, a local law granting partial property tax exemption to certain seniors and persons with disabilities, setting income limits for the same, and replacing local law Number 4 of 1999.
Support.
Okay, we got a couple of seconds there. Okay, any discussion?
Second.
They already did.
Was that?
Sorry. Just move on.
Oh, okay, no more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, one more, at least.
I'm done.
Number 18. Oh, that's the same, that's a
I got one more?
two-pager, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, that is Enslow.
No title on that page.
The other mic.
Next up is Supervisor Enslow.
Board of Supervisors authorize acceptance of $50,030.37 from the CARES Act Fund.
Support.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next up, number 20, resolution.
Seneca County Board of Supervisors approves Community Service Board appointments.
Support.
Okay, we got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Supervisor Renville. Public Works, Supervisor Trout, number 21.
Supervisors support new project at the Sampson's Veterans Memorial Cemetery and authorize contract with Plan Architecture.
Support.
Support.
Seconds there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 22.
Supervisors accept grant and express appreciation for Sampson Veterans Memorial Cemetery.
Support.
Okay. Again, a lot of seconds. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 23.
Award bid for ramp replacement at the drop-in center.
Support.
Got a second there. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 24.
This one's very exciting. We've been waiting a long time. Supervisors authorize execution of intermunicipal agreement for wastewater conveyance, treatment, operation, and maintenance.
Support.
Got a second on that in the south end. That's good. Okay, any discussion? You don't want to table this for a while, do you, Don?
No, no. You shouldn't even ask for discussion.
How long has this been out there?
2016.
Wow.
I just want the board to know that when I came on, that it's all got settled, so.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank God.
In other words, I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, all the people in Junius and Tyre will appreciate you. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good.
Hallelujah.
Can I make copies and you can just pass it?
Don, you should get that one framed or something.
I know.
That's the longest one I've been involved with.
Okay.
It is. I mean, that's been going on for years.
Next up is government operations, number 25.
Yes, sir. Amend the rules.
Amanda, will you cover for, okay. Yeah.
Amend the rules of the board to schedule a special year-end board meeting to authorize the extension of the 2020 taxes Tuesday, December 29th at 5:00 PM at the county office building.
Support.
Support.
A second on that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 26.
Amend the rules to the board scheduled 2021 organizational meeting, which will take place on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021 at 5 PM. Board of Supervisors room.
Support.
Second on that. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Fonzetti. I think Margaret's out making a resolution to, didn't get in here, which we approved with cut, I think it was cutting the checks for the mortgage tax.
Yeah, do a mortgage, we forgot to do the mortgage tax, yeah.
All done with all your resolutions?
No.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna pass it out.
Okay, we'll get that after Supervisor Burnell does the resolution. Okay? You got a couple, 3 of them. Oh, you'll be here a while. Okay, Supervisor Burnell, resolution number 27.
Thank you.
Board of Supervisors apply for a 2019 hazmat grant.
Support.
Got a second there? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 28.
Board of Supervisors apply for a 2019 Technical Rescue and User Grant Program. Support.
You got a second there? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 29.
Advertise for candidates to fill vacancy for the coroner position.
Support.
Okay, that's second there. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I got one more comment. Just by your information, I got some of the coroner's stuff reported, and they're bringing it into the county clerk's office from the coroners.
I didn't hear the first part. Margaret was walking by me.
Okay.
Not that she's guilty doing that, but what was that again? Ernie, what'd you say?
Some of the coroners are bringing their stuff into the county clerk's office. I've contacted most of them. They're going to make appointments, and some is there today.
Okay.
That's all, just an update on it.
Well, they're all happy doing that and all that?
They're all happy doing that.
Good, good, very good. So,
Thank you, Ernie.
did we finish this resolution or not? Or that was all the, we did?
We did.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much, Supervisor Burnell. We'll go back to Supervisor Reynolds.
Board of Supervisors authorize Finance Department to pay mortgage tax to municipalities.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, up number 30 here for Supervisor Hayes.
Supervisors authorize the segmentation of sewer district number 2 and increase the rate of service.
Support.
Got a second. Any discussion? As a home rule, it affects the people in the town of Barrett and the town of Romulus. I hope that you'll support this under home rule at the least, anyway. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no nays, motion carries. Boy, thank you, Supervisor Hayes. A lot of heavy lifting there, getting it right. Okay, personnel, Supervisor Farrar, number 31.
Board of Supervisors approves waiver to hiring freeze to fill real property tax aid.
Support.
Second, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 32.
Board of Supervisors approves waiver to hiring freeze to fill employment and training counselor and employment and training assistant.
Support.
Second on that too. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Board of Supervisors approves the creation and filling of one part-time building maintenance mechanic.
Support. Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 34.
Board of Supervisors approves waiver to hiring freeze to fill part-time building mechanic.
Support.
Support on that too. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Supervisor Ferrara.
Thank you.
Number 35 for Human Services, Supervisor Borst.
Chairman of the Board of Supervisors authorized to sign the Office for the Aging annual update to the 4-year plan for services and funding applications.
Support.
Second on that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 36, Supervisor Borst.
Authorized contract 2020-2021 with Finger Lakes Community College.
Support.
Second on that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 37.
Okay, I'm going to read through this whole thing. Seneca County Board of Supervisors proclaims January as Human Trafficking and Awareness Month in Seneca County.
Support.
Support.
Okay. Whereas human trafficking has been recognized as a form of modern-day slavery that occurs nationally in every state, including New York, and in many communities across the state. And whereas human trafficking shall mean the recruitment, transport, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force, fraud, coercion, and whereas anyone can be a victim of human trafficking, most identified victims of trafficking in New York State are American-born females. However, immigrant and undocumented youth, as well as male and transgender youth, have been identified as victims of sex and or labor trafficking. New York State Office of Children and Family Services. And whereas youth are especially vulnerable to being trafficked, including those with a history of abusing, including sexual abuse, physical abuse, maltreatment, neglect, and substance abuse, children with disabilities, children in foster care, or who have been involved in the justice system, LGBTQ youth, and runaway and homeless youth. And whereas the New York State Office of Children and Family Services provided funding to the Seneca County Division of Human Services over the last 5 years to provide community awareness campaigns, community education and training, and to provide resources and services to youth identified as a victim of trafficking, and to those who may be at risk. And whereas Human Services Standing Committee approved this resolution on November 24th, 2020, now therefore be resolved, the Board of Supervisors proclaims January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Seneca County and recognize January 11th, 2021 as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day.
Okay, we had a second from Mr. Ferrara there. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 38.
Board of Supervisors approve appointment of Finger Lakes Workforce Investment Board member.
Support. Second.
Second on that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Supervisor Borst. Oh, you got one more.
One more.
Jeez.
Busy night for me. Board of Supervisors approves the 2020 Resource Allocation Plan for state aid funding for youth programs.
Support.
Second there, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now I can say thank you, Supervisor Borst. Okay. Supervisor Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
40.
Board of Supervisors appoint Kyle Black to the Seneca County Planning Board.
Support.
Second on that. Okay, any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I have discussion. I'm actually going to oppose this vote. Mr. Black currently sits on the Junistown Board. Typically, the supervisor chooses someone with prior knowledge of sitting on a town planning board to move up into the county board position, the seat, because then they've gained the knowledge and the insight and experience of what a planning board member does. I also feel that Mr. Black, as his role of project manager, whatever that title is at Seneca Metals Landfill, possibly could be a conflict of interest. I also think that it better serve his duties to concentrate on possibly controlling orders that are coming from the landfill. Being a representative of our county planning board, I don't think that would fit the ticket.
Before I
That's my opinion.
brought his name in, I asked Harriet Haynes, he said it was no conflict.
he just wouldn't be able to vote on some issues if that was the case.
Very good, but I also said he has no experience of the planning board. Being a town board member is not the same as being a planning board member. So, thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, we got 2 nays, so noted, motion carried.
And Supervisor Lorenzetti voted nay.
Right. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Public Health Services, Supervisor McGreevy. I think we left a resolution out of here too, right, Mitch, you think?
It appears.
Appears you voted 2 weeks ago to change the rules or change the rules of the COVID-19 task force. So that needed to be probably voted on tonight. So I think then we could make the changes. We made the changes in the middle, but it hadn't been approved yet. You say that's pretty accurate, Mitch? I think so. Anyway.
We're taking it back to committee.
Yeah, Mr. Ferrara had made the recommendation early on, and then I would say the board hasn't seen any changes, so I don't know how we could vote on anything.
No, but we were voting to approve making changes.
Oh.
That's what the Public Health Committee voted on to, right?
Approve making the changes, not necessarily what the changes are.
Right.
Correct.
So technically, to make changes, the board had to vote tonight.
Correct.
Authorization to make the changes.
Correct.
So we'll worry about that resolution after Supervisor McGreevy gets done with these other resolutions. Okay, number 41, Supervisor McGreevy.
Number 41, Board of Supervisors reappoints Dr. Timothy J. Ryan, Medical Director for Public Health.
Support. Second there. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 42.
Number 42, Board of Supervisors amends fee schedule for services provided by Seneca County Health Department.
Support.
Okay, you got a second there? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, what do you want to do on this resolution? Somebody wants to, this resolution authorizing the COVID task force to make changes to.
I'll make that motion.
Consider changes to the, what do you want to call it, the rules? Okay.
What was it? Did you make it, Mike?
No,
yeah.
Dave did.
Dave did, I think, just,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
What's the motion here now?
The motion is to have the Board of Supervisors gives the committee the authority to change the COVID-19 procedures, not the actual changes, just gives them the authority to revisit the original policy and to change the policy, then bring it back to the full board for approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a first and a second on that. Any discussion then?
I didn't hear the second.
I think Cindy made the second.
I did.
Okay, so then after, if we pass this, then we go back and work some more on the
specifics,
on the rules and regulations, then bring it back to the board for full approval at a next meeting. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any new business?
I have a question. I don't know if it's business or not, but I have a question for Vicki. Is there, I mean, I've read, and I don't know if it's true or not, but is there such thing as the oral swab for COVID testing?
Not the one that's approved here, I don't know.
I mean, we mean approved by the CDC or the state, or who has to approve it?
I apologize, Vicki. I was going to have you speak after my chairman's remarks.
My papers.
Yes. Give us an update what's going on in the last 2 weeks. Probably nothing, huh?
All quiet.
Who was asking the question?
I was.
Oh, okay. To my knowledge, no, there is not one that's approved, at least for us to use in the health department. I don't know of one that's been approved to be used. Now, they have altered the ones that we can use now, that, you know, everybody knows it's a nasopharyngeal swab where it's, you know, halfway up your nose and halfway We also have right now, the ones that we will be using are just the nasal swab, so it's just in the nares. So it's not as deep up that we can use, but I do not know of an approved one for at least public health to use, and or whether it's approved in the state at all, I don't know. I know they were talking about it, but I don't know if there's ever one been finalized.
I just want to, can we, if it is something, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a cost thing or what it goes with as far as this testing. I know we want to set up more places which will prep us for the being able to use those same places for vaccination centers and stuff. But it would seem that if it's something that's easier to do, it wouldn't require as much training or whatever, because I know at the beginning you said that the people would be able to do the swabs have to be trained or medical personnel and so on. It seems to me that if the test becomes something that can be done easy, like an oral swab, the training would be a lot less. I mean,
it would be, and the same as like just the nasal swab that we can do now as opposed to the nasopharyngeal swab. Usually what the practice is that you would usually hand the swab to the person and observe them that they could do it and then hand it
then
back.
we're doing something that's easier, that doesn't require as much training for individuals.
Correct.
So okay, so I'm just trying to figure out how we could get people to man these centers that don't have to be medically qualified in some form or another. You understand what I mean?
Yep, I know exactly what you're meaning, and that's something that we're struggling with, trying to get.
Well, the COVID task force has discussed that on Monday.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some clinics set up. I'm trying to get some routine clinics set up so that we could have a specific day of the week, a specific time frame of the week, like every Thursday from 9 to 12, or, you know, every Tuesday from 1 to 5 at a certain location, so that we can get that advertised and get it consistent and get people booked in and get them tested.
What's the turnaround time? When you get tested?
What we would be using would be the 15-minute test.
So
the nasopharyngeal.
I'm only asking because I know there's also the issue that we have in the state with nursing homes and getting a test to be able to get in. By the time you get past the number of days, they've already hit the barrier where you can't get in, and you've already spent that time and energy to try to get in.
Correct.
So, I mean, if we could get to the point where it's a 15-minute test, that would definitely be one thing that would be huge to advertise to get people tested.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge burden because of a lot of things. The travel restrictions, where people traveling into the country, or I'm sorry, into the state, have to get a test on day 4 when they come in. Or try to find a place that you can get a test for day 4. These testing sites that we would set up would be for people that are asymptomatic. If you're having symptoms, you're gonna need to go to the hospital, you need to go to your doctor, you need to go to an urgent care. These are strictly for people that are asymptomatic. So it could be the travelers, it could be the families that need to go into the nursing homes when they're allowed to visit. It could be the worried well. I just wanna get tested for my own satisfaction. And right now, if you can find a place that will do it, a lot of times your insurance company won't pay for it and you have to pay for it out of pocket. So that is something that we've got the cards, we've got that. We're trying to get that set up. So yes, that's our next objective, to get up and running in the county.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just an update, I did send out the nightly update. I don't know if you saw it, it went up a little before 5, so whether you did or did not, just, I'm not gonna beleaguer the point. Obviously, you know our numbers are going up. We had 13 new cases today. There is an outbreak at Huntington Nursing Home, which has contributed to a lot of cases. Not all Seneca County residents, but there are 30 residents at Huntington Nursing Home that have tested positive. 21 employees are positive. 18 out of the 21 are Seneca County residents, just so you are aware. And so that is obviously something that we're trying to keep track of with the nursing home. We have, again, community spread. That's what we're saying, community spread. Now, Huntington has been on lockdown per se. They haven't had visitors for a while, so I don't think that's been brought in from the outside. Most likely employees that have brought it in, not saying it's anything against employees, but it's your typical, if you're not having symptoms and you're working and you have it, you don't know it, it spreads, and then we just see, it only takes one. It only takes one. So I just, a little update, just, if you remember, I talked last time about how November was our busiest month for the entire year so far. So just to put a little perspective, from November 1st to November 8th, just that 1 week period, we got 42 cases, and that was a high. From December 1st to December 8th, we're already at 87. So December is not going to be a quiet month. So just so you know, so November we ended up with 210 cases altogether. So our numbers are not getting any better. It is community spread. It is people congregating, having parties. It's people, I will tell you right out, they are lying to us when we do our contact tracing. When you have 20 of your dearest and nearest friends over to your house party to celebrate something, and somebody tests positive, and then when we contact you to say we need the names and phone numbers of everybody who was there, and suddenly you get amnesia and don't remember who was there. That's those press releases that I have to put out. If you were at this event, you need to watch yourself. So we can't wonder why it's spreading when people are not being honest. You know, and we are getting, which I mentioned a little bit last week, we're getting a lot more harassment from the public of, you know, I shouldn't be on quarantine, and screaming at us, and it doesn't do any good to sit there and call us 46 times and leave a message 46 times that you want to talk to us, because it delays us answering all those calls, taking down those messages. Call and leave a message and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So there's frustration all around, I understand that, but we have got to do something because our numbers are not going down. And I'm, you know, I wasn't on the control room call, but I know there's something coming. How can it not? The hospitalizations are going up. We have currently 11 hospitalized, which is the largest number of patients that have been hospitalized since we've been here. 5 of those are nursing home residents, so there are still six other community members that are being hospitalized. And you can see by the age breakdowns, when I put that down, it's not just the elderly getting sick right now. We have the most cases in the 50 to 59-year-old group. I'm sorry, I take it back. The 20 to 29 and the 30 to 39 are the highest group. So it's not necessarily just the elderly, and those are the ones that are doing the parties and the social gathering. And again, I was worried about Thanksgiving. I'm even more so worried about Christmas and New Year's. Mr. Lott?
Vicki, yesterday, your press release, or your, not your press release, your update to us, you mentioned there was a person that had it in April, had it again now. Can you tell us, is that someone that was in a nursing home, or is this?
No, this is not someone who was in a nursing home.
I think there's people out there that think they had it and they're immune to it. And maybe we need to make that point that you're not immune to it.
Well, there are people that have had it and don't even know it. So whether you're immune to it or not, who knows? This is a person who was diagnosed with COVID, went through a quarantine period, and did subsequently test negative. Okay, so I mean, a lot of times of people that test positive, we don't test them again to see if they become negative. Unless it's a job requirement or whatever, we don't routinely just test people. They do their quarantine period. Some people tend to remain positive for maybe up to 3 months, so that you just don't keep testing them. After their quarantine period, they're no longer able to transmit it. That's why they're allowed to go back to work. But this was an individual who did test positive, subsequently recuperated or recovered and tested negative, and now has tested positive again, so it's considered a reinfection. So it'd be interesting to see if this person had any antibodies. You know, that's, again, one of these things, that's why it's a novel virus. There's just still so much that we don't know about it, but there have been rare cases where they have been cases of reinfection, and we may be seeing more of that. Who knows? We probably will, but.
Vicki, could you tell me what's roughly the time span in between, like from the first to the second?
For this individual?
Yeah, well, just time, just curious.
I could guesstimate probably.
Just roughly.
I'm trying to think. I can check more tomorrow to verify, so don't quote me on this. I'm thinking probably 4 months maybe, but don't take my word on that.
No, just roughly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll try and verify that
This person has been on the list twice now then.
Correct now, yes.
Okay. So she did, that person did, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but.
Is another
that person
case.
did definitely test positive.
Yep.
And then after the quarantine period, he or she went about their way and she's positive again. Okay.
Cindy?
So what worries me is that, you know, the nursing homes, and was it 18 staff members? So they're, right now, our staff members that test positive going out of work for 14 days?
Yes,
or-
they have to, if they test, if they are
Because before
positive.
they were working. I'm
no.
not saying that specific place, but
If they have been in contact, the people that have been in contact with somebody who's positive, they can work. But if you're positive, you can't.
I remember way before in the beginning, they were making people positive.
They have way back
Way
when,
back,
yeah.
But they've changed that, so the positives are not working.
Correct, they're positive, and they have to complete the 14-day quarantine period
Okay.
before they can, go back to work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So just sitting here thinking about it, he's mentioned that we have the cards and stuff, and maybe this is already being done, I don't know, but I just was thinking, for the employees of the nursing homes, can we train them and give them cards where they test themselves before they go to work?
Yeah, the nursing homes are responsible to test all their employees.
They do twice a week.
They have to do, depending on when they have positive cases, it ramps it up, but they're responsible to test their own employees and their own staff. And it is their requirement, and, you know, not to be picky, but it is their financial burden. Right now, we are getting the cards and stuff for free, but these are the cards that we're also going to be supplying to the schools if they go into the yellow zone.
Right.
So unfortunately, it is a financial burden that the hospitals and nursing homes have to take on themselves.
Understandable. Just makes, to me, it makes sense to test everybody before they go into work, even if it costs money, just to save lives.
Well, they are doing them weekly, I think, or every twice. Or
Twice a week when they get an outbreak, but weekly for, since COVID.
Yeah.
Every week. And then you're right though, because then you have the people that are asymptomatic that are going in. That's the horrible thing about this.
Yeah, twice a week isn't enough. It's got to be, it's got to be before they get in the building.
Yeah, but part of the problem is too that they're doing the PCRs and it takes 2 or 3 days to get back, and by the time they get them back, they've already worked, and now you're doing contact tracing on who they've been with.
Yeah, if there's a test that's 15 minutes, I don't know why they're not doing a 15-minute test in the parking lot.
I don't know what their requirements are, though. They may be required to do the actual PCR, and I don't know. They may have requirements.
Vicki, do we have any authority over in-home health aides? And I'll just expand, you know, we've been pretty diligent in Lodi. The messaging is out there pretty well, but our very first case was an in-home health worker bringing it to an individual. And now we've seen some community spread from that. Is there anything that we can do? Is there?
For the private ones, no.
Okay.
Obviously, if they're associated with an agency, then, you know, we can work with them, either with us or through the state health department. For private, no. And we have had several cases of individuals that have caretakers that have tested positive, and it really gets to be very troublesome, because then they can't go back in and take care of their client, and there's nobody else to take care of that patient, and it really is.
So what people should do in that situation is make sure who they hire is coming in dressed properly. They should have a mask on, they should have a shield on, and they probably should be wearing gloves. And if they're with an agency, then they're gonna have to report that and they'll be taken out of work. But if it's private duty coming in and the people are paying for that person, they better make sure that the person comes in with proper gear. Very sad.
It's tough times all the way around. It's just such a ripple effect, and again, it only takes one.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I apologize, I meant to tell you. Better late than never. Okay, any other new business?
I just want to put for the record, for the next committee meeting, under our water sewer committee, I think, or I'm not sure, Public Works, but we need to put something into place that we don't let somebody go in and tamper with water lines. Turning on and off valves, digging, or anything that's related to our water lines, we need to make a policy on that. We've had 2 major water breaks up at Hillside, done by Mr. Martin. So whatever committee that falls under, I'd like it to be put on the next committee schedule. That anything that needs to be done has to be done by a county worker. Not done by him and supervised by a county worker, done by a county worker. Because my people in my town, and I don't know about your Varick town, we're not gonna be out of water for any more times because of mistakes that have been made.
Yep, that should be on the agenda to discuss.
On the agenda.
Okay, next up, anything else? Ralph, you have a resolution to go in executive session?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I have a motion to enter executive session pursuant to Section 105(1)D of the New York State Open Meetings Law. I move to enter into executive session and invite all members of the Board of Supervisors and the county manager to attend.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're now in executive session.
He's a Mennonite.
Let me know when it's live.
Hides behind.
All right, we're live.
Okay, we are back live now.
But I'm gonna let it
Is
run.
there any other business to come before this board? Nope. Okay, have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Ferrara,
Second.
Mr. Hayes, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you all. See you in 2 weeks or sooner.
Give or take.
All right, well, I guess